I want to start today by asking you to do something that might feel a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
I want you to just look at your immediate surroundings. If you're commuting, look at the grime on the train window or the brake lights in front of you.
Right.
If you're at home, maybe it's the pile of dishes you haven't washed or the clutter on your desk.
So not exactly a picturesque scene for most of us.
No, it's usually mundane, maybe even a little irritating. But here is the thought experiment our source material proposes, and it's one that really stops you in your tracks.
Mm.
Pause and realize that this life you are living right now, the routines, the specific stressors, the people you see every day, even the annoying details, will one day exist only in your memory.
And not just as a fact. The source argues that this mundane Tuesday is actually the raw material for the good old days you were going to, yearn for in 20 years.
We are diving into a fascinating piece today titled The Life You're Living Today Will One Day Be the Past You Miss, which centers on this linguistic and psychological concept of the future perfect.
It's a deep dive into the architecture of nostalgia. I mean, usually we think of nostalgia as an ache for the past.
For childhood, yeah.
Right. But this source flips the timeline. It argues we are actively constructing tomorrow's nostalgia right now, in real time, and often without even realizing it.
The premise seems to be that we are terrible at judging the value of a moment while we are actually in it.
We really are.
We think we're just getting through the day, but we're actually building the museum of our future.
We're building the museum, but we're walking through it with our eyes closed. The mission here is to use this concept of future perfect,
Right.
both the grammatical tense and the mindset, to fundamentally alter how we process stress, boredom, and just routine.
Okay, so let's start with the problem, which is the invisible construction of memory.
Yeah.
Because when I'm stuck in a boring meeting or, dealing with a toddler tantrum, I don't feel like I'm witnessing history. I feel like I'm wasting time.
That is the default human setting. We evaluate our days based on utility or pleasure. Was today productive? Was it fun?
Right. Was it a good day or a bad day?
Exactly. And if the answer is no, we label the day as filler.
Just a bridge to the weekend.
But, and this is the key, the source points out that memory doesn't archive life based on your productivity metrics. It archives based on emotion and connection, the whole editing process.
How does that editing actually work? Because I feel like I remember plenty of stressful things.
Oh, you do. You remember the fact that you were stressed, but the visceral weight of it, that usually fades. The brain, it edits, it softens, and it selects.
Okay.
So the source makes this really critical distinction. In the future, you will have forgotten the specific pressure of the deadline that is making your chest tight right now. But you will have remembered the context, the colleague you grabbed coffee with to vent about it, or the feeling of the office when you finally crack the problem.
So it filters out the cortisol but keeps the connection?
Essentially, yes. The source puts it so bluntly. Future, you will not miss your to-do list. You won't look back and think, man, I really crushed those emails in 2024.
No, of course not.
But you might miss the people who were sitting across from you while you were busy ignoring them to answer those emails.
That's the tragedy of it, isn't it? We prioritize the task, which will be, deleted from memory, over the person who is the only thing that will stick.
It is a total misallocation of attention. And it's based on a faulty prediction of what actually matters.
We think the noise is permanent.
Exactly. We operate under the illusion that the current noise of life is permanent and that we have infinite time to get to the signal.
Which leads us to what the source calls the illusion of later. And I'm definitely guilty of this. I tell myself, I'll enjoy the ride once I get past this current hurdle.
The later trap is pervasive. It's everywhere. I'll slow down later. I'll be more present when the kids are older.
I'll travel when I get the promotion. Yeah.
But the source, it slams the door on that pretty hard.
It does.
It offers a brutal reality check. Life rarely becomes less busy. It just becomes busy in a different way. The texture of the stress changes, but the volume, it remains fairly constant.
So we're just waiting for a calm that never actually comes.
And while we wait, we move forward. We outgrow places that once felt permanent. We drift from friends who once felt essential. The source uses a haunting phrase here. It says, you will have said goodbye to versions of your life without realizing they were ending.
That's terrifying. It implies we often don't know we're in the last time until it's already over.
Which brings us to the core intellectual tool of this deep dive, the future perfect.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because usually when we talk about grammar on this show, it's about clarity, But the source claims this is, like, philosophical.
It really is.
Future perfect is a specific tense. I will have done, I will have seen.
It's a tense that projects you forward to a point of completion. So if I say, I will buy a house, that's just a plan. It's open-ended.
Right. Anything could happen.
But if I say, I will have bought a house, I am speaking from a vantage point where the action is already finished.
It forces your brain to simulate the completion.
It forces integration. It creates a kind of mental time travel where you look back at the present moment as if it is already a memory. And the source argues this isn't just wordplay. It's a cognitive tool for stabilizing yourself in chaos.
So if I'm in a crisis right now, instead of thinking, I hope this ends, I should be thinking, I will have solved this.
You shift your perspective to the version of you who has already survived it. That future self knows the outcome. They know the sleepless nights didn't kill you. They know the awkwardness of the new job eventually faded into confidence.
It effectively borrows the wisdom of hindsight and pulls it into the present moment.
It creates distance. When you view today through the lens of the future perfect, I will have lived through this, the immediate panic shrinks. You stop looking at the isolated incident and you start looking at the narrative arc.
But does that actually work for the mundane stuff? I can see it working for a crisis. But what about just boredom or irritation?
It works even better there because it highlights the retroactive value of things we currently despise.
See, this is the part I struggled with at first. The source claims we will miss things we currently call boring. I have a hard time believing I'm going to look back and miss my commute or standing in line at the grocery store.
You probably won't miss the traffic itself, but you will miss what the traffic represented.
Which is what? Wasted gas.
Safety, routine, a time in your life when you were healthy enough to drive, employed enough to have a commute, and maybe young enough that your biggest worry was being 10 minutes late.
Okay, when you frame it like that, it lands differently.
The brain assigns emotional value retroactively. We think we will miss the highlight reel, the vacations, the awards, the weddings,
The Instagram stuff.
the Instagram stuff. But the source argues that what we actually ache for are the familiar voices and the routines that provided the scaffolding of our
The
lives.
scaffolding. I like that. That's a good word for it.
Imagine your future self sitting across from you right now. They aren't going to ask you about your Q3 KPIs. They aren't going to ask if you cleared your inbox.
No, they probably ask, do you remember when we used to all sit at that cramped dinner table?
Or do you remember that old car that smelled like vanilla and dog hair? Things you might be trying to upgrade or get rid of right now.
Right.
The source suggests that your future self sees the character development in these moments, while your present self only sees the plot conflict.
That's a massive distinction. Present me is just trying to resolve the conflict. Future me sees the conflict as necessary for the story.
And this is what the source calls the emotional mathematics of time.
I love that phrase, though I'm not sure I fully grasp the equation.
Well, the equation is something like intensity divided by time equals perspective. The paradox of stress is that the moments that feel heaviest now often lose their weight the fastest.
And the reverse is true.
The reverse is true. The moments that feel light or normal often gain the most weight in memory.
So the argument I had with my spouse about the dishwasher feels like a 10 out of 10 on the stress scale right now, but in 10 years.
It barely registers. It dissolves. But the quiet Tuesday evening watching a movie together, that gains density. It becomes a pillar of who we were.
The source has a quote here that I highlighted. Growth is rarely loud while it is happening. Transformation tends to whisper.
And we've been conditioned by movies to expect a montage, right? We want the Rocky training sequence where we see the muscles growing.
Of course.
But in real life, growth just looks like coping. It looks like getting up, making coffee, and trying again.
It's invisible while you're in it.
It is. And the challenge the source poses is, what if you could borrow that future perspective now? What if, instead of waiting 20 years to realize these struggling days were actually the forging of your character, you realized it this morning?
It changes the narrative from I am suffering to I am building.
It makes the difficulty transient rather than tragic. I will have learned from this. I will have become stronger because of this. It lets you honor the struggle without drowning in it.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. This all sounds very noble, but we live in an attention economy that is designed to prevent exactly this kind of reflection.
That is the practical barrier, absolutely. Presence is a skill, and we are currently in an environment that actively degrades that skill.
My phone buzzes, I check it. The news cycle is 24/7 doom. It's hard to sit there and savor the texture of the day when the day is screaming at you.
The competition for your attention is aggressive, but the source explains the cost of losing that battle. If we rush through the day, mentally checking out or multitasking, memory records very little.
It's like leaving the lens cap on.
Precisely. You're physically there, but the recording light isn't on. Presence determines memory. If you aren't paying attention, the file is never saved.
So the tragedy isn't that time passes, we can't stop that.
No. The tragedy is that we were mentally elsewhere while it happened. We're planning the future, or replaying the past, and meanwhile, the only reality that actually exists, the present, is slipping by unwitnessed.
We're the main character, but we're watching the movie from the lobby on our phone.
And the future-perfect mindset is the antidote to this.
Yeah.
It's not about being zen or having no stress. It's about intentionality. It's about asking a simple data collection question. What about this moment will I want to retain?
That's a practical hook. It's not force yourself to be happy. It's what is the data point here?
Yes, even if the moment is awful. Even if you are grieving or angry, I will have remembered how I stood my ground, or I will have remembered who held my hand. You are instructing your brain on what to keep.
It gives you a sense of agency. You're the curator of the museum, not just the janitor cleaning up the mess.
You are curating the retrospective. And the source emphasizes that you don't need to change your life dramatically to do this. You don't need to move to a cabin in the woods.
Good, because I have a mortgage.
You just need to notice the life you already have. The tragedy isn't that life is short, but that we so often only realize its value in retrospect.
This leads us to the final, and honestly, the most provocative part of the source material. It ends with a specific question from your future self.
And that question is, did you realize it was special while it was happening?
That hits hard because usually the answer is no, I thought it was just Tuesday.
Did you realize it was special? Not perfect, not easy, but special. Because it was yours. Because it was the only time you would ever be that exact age with those exact people facing those exact challenges.
It reframes the mundane as limited edition.
Every day is a limited edition. That sounds like a cliche, I know, but neurologically and experientially, it is a fact. You will never experience this precise configuration of reality ever again.
So the invitation of the future perfect is to wake up to that fact before it becomes a memory.
To treat today like future memory in progress.
I really like that phrase, future memory in progress. It makes me want to pay attention to the light in the room or the sound of the train or just the fact that I'm healthy enough to be annoyed by a deadline.
It changes the quality of the immediate moment. You stop trying to get through the day, and you start trying to witness the day.
And when that future version of you looks back, and they will look back, the source says, you will have understood that these were never just normal days. They were your life.
They were the substance of your life.
We cover a lot of theory on this show, but this one feels like a tool I can use the second we stop recording. It's a lens I can snap onto my camera immediately.
It's a tool you can use while you are washing the dishes tonight.
So here is our challenge to you, the listener. Don't just let this deep dive end and jump straight to the next notification or the next podcast in your queue. Take 5 seconds. Just 5.
Look at your environment through the eyes of your future self and ask, what is here right now that I will one day struggle to remember?
It might be the chaos, it might be the quiet, it might be the messy desk, but just witness it.
Don't let the day slip by without putting your signature on it.
Because, believe it or not, today is the good old days you're going to talk about later. Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.